I couldn't find any trailers from this movie that I thought unsuspecting masses could just watch at 9 a.m. over their coffee.
Shame on the both of you for having a movie that involves so many close-ups of needles going into skin. No, it's probably the very few times that I've cringed in these films and felt sick to my stomach.
Welcome! We're back at our home away from home, Gateway Film Center, Columbus, Ohio, for the Fright Club Live podcast. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from madwolf.com. And for those of you that see the blood around her neck, that's just a necklace. It's a cool necklace. We went out to, where did we go, Chipotle today, and somebody thought you were injured.
Yes, yeah.
Almost threw us out, but that's the fun vibe we have. Welcome. Great crowd. Glad you're here. We got a fun topic and a creepy movie.
Yeah.
A creepy movie, but that's what we do. But first off, we got to say thank you to last time out we did the studio version of Fright Club with our friend. Well, he's now a friend of the show.
He is,
because
yes.
he's been on the podcast so many times.
Yep.
And that is filmmaker George Popov. And he joined us to talk about our favorite ghosts.
Yeah, so we didn't do necessarily haunted movies. We zeroed in on the specific ghosts that were our favorite ghosts. And part of the reason is because George directs a series of documentaries, and the most recent one they're called Side World, and the most recent one is about ghosts. There's also one about sea monsters. It's really good. You can find it on Amazon Prime. They're usually about 60-minute,
They're good.
really good
they're interesting documentaries, especially if you like
folk horror. Yeah.
Which we really do. And he's been on now a few times.
Yeah,
and we love
he's
it.
always great. And
Always
so,
great.
yeah, I think the only real complaint, Dustin wanted to know why the blowjob ghost from Ghostbusters didn't make the list. That's his.
Well, it's
his
a good
favorite
question.
Ghost.
It's a good question here.
Fair.
And
Fair question.
And since you're in charge of the list, I got to throw it back to you. So
I chose not to include her.
But that was a lot of fun. So we appreciate that as always. I appreciate having George on. And may I say tonight, before we get into it, as usual, the T-shirt game here tonight is strong.
Very strong. Yeah.
It is strong. I'm always shamed because I always have to decide what Jaws T-shirt am I going to wear. That's pretty much the extent of my horror movie wardrobe. I've got to kick it up a notch because you guys always bring it, and very impressive.
All he's really saying is that I need to buy him some more horror movie T-shirts because I guarantee all the ones he has I bought for him.
I can own it. I can take care of my own. I should do that. Got to branch out. We'll try to work on that for next time. But that is always welcome, and we've got Antiviral is the movie tonight.
It is.
This is the debut. It was the debut of Brandon Cronenberg,
yes,
son, of course, of David Cronenberg. And you hear that Cronenberg name, and you think body horror.
Indeed.
And that's what you're going to see. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about Contagion in horror, right?
Correct. There's billions and billions. And so we had to really narrow it down. So no zombie movies, sorry. And no, slug, parasite, living thing jumping from one to another, which really just eliminates the other Cronenberg, really, from this list. But I had to narrow it down in some way. So this is actually viruses, diseases, that type of contagion.
Yeah, and the way the story works in Contagion is so fascinating, especially
In Antiviral.
In Antiviral, yeah. Especially with how things have progressed since this movie has come out in terms of social media and the different types of lives we lead, celebrity lives and celebrity worship and things like that. This movie takes that on in a really interesting way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. How many people have seen it?
Just a couple.
Wow.
I love that.
I want to say that you're in for a treat. I hope it's true. It's really gross. So I just want you to be aware of it. This movie is really gross.
I'm especially looking at the two newbies here that they were going to see Beau is Afraid and decided it was too long. So Beau is Afraid's loss is our gain.
That's right.
We welcome Fright Club newbies, and it is gross, but I did promise them there are no eyeballs.
Right.
I don't think there are any eyeballs.
No.
But that's as far as our promises go. After that,
yeah.
all bets are off.
Yeah.
But so when we get to Antiviral in our list, we're not going to say much about it, but
Nope.
we definitely want you to come down and give us your thoughts after it's over because so few people have seen it. That's great.
Right.
I love that. Okay, anything else before we jump in?
Well, I do want to take a second to talk about some of the ones that didn't make the list that almost made the list. And so Mask of the Red Death, that's a big one that almost made the list. It's such a great movie, and it's very similar to...
Oh, that's the Bergman.
yeah, why can't I think of the name of it?
Seventh Seal. Seventh Seal,
Very
thank
similar
you.
to the Seventh Seal. Sorry, I had a
These are all such great images.
They are.
I'm loving all of them.
And so, but I mean, they're both really great movies. And The Bergman really isn't a horror movie, but it's close for him. So anyway, I was sorry that I couldn't include those. I always want to include a David Cronenberg on really every list, but especially this list. And so Rabid was close. The Crazies.
Oh, I love The Crazies.
Either one. Really close to making the list. We got something that's somewhat similar to The Crazies that did make the list.
Yep.
And then Carriers, which is Chris Pine in a great role for him, actually. It's a really early Chris Pine role with Piper Perabo, and he is such a dick, but in a great way. And you don't get that a lot from him anymore. He's usually just like Joe Nice Guy. So it's a good movie. These are all great movies.
Yeah,
if you
those are
haven't
good
seen.
ones.
I know.
Those are good ones for
this
not...
is a really big topic,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, it really is. But those are good for not making the list. So we've got good stuff in the top 5.
The image right there from Rabid,
Mm-hmm.
that was, when you're a little kid and you went to the VHS, that was the VHS box that haunted me as a child. I would just look at it all the time like, what is happening with that lady? And I always wanted to get it, and I was never allowed.
That's a good one.
It is.
Yeah, love those boxes at the
Yes.
video store. Yeah, it was all about that. Okay, so those are some really good ones. Didn't quite crack it. Anything else before we dive in?
I don't think so.
Okay, good enough. So we'll get to number 5 on our list of Contagion horror. Oh, this is one we've shown here at Fright Club and talked about several times. A radio host, interprets the possible outbreak of a deadly virus which infects the small Ontario town he is stationed in from 2008. It's Pontypool.
Hail Mary, yea, though I walk, we go to Ken Loney in the Sunshine Chopper.
Oh gosh, they're pulling 2 people out of a van.
Who are they?
There's a bunch of them there. They're people, but they're crazy. They're fighting them. People are getting killed out there. Oh!
Ken. Are you there, Ken?
They cut into our signal.
We did. We showed this one at Fright Club. I love this movie. And it's the one that's the closest to The Crazies, either of the two versions of The Crazies, because people just go crazy. That's what the sort of the contagion is in this movie. And it's words. The more you talk, the more your words stop making sense in your head, and then they start making sense to you in a way that makes you want to do violent things, which I can 100% embrace that notion. That makes a weird amount of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating the way that Bruce McDonald, the director, interprets contagion. He called these, according to him, the victims of the virus are called conversationless as opposed to zombies. And I think that is fascinating. I love how it progressed. It was originally, and you can definitely see this if you've seen the film, it was originally produced as both a motion picture and a radio play.
Oh, for sure.
Now, the play only lasts about an hour, whereas the movie's an hour and a half. But yeah, you could definitely see this being a play. And it's fascinating, conversationalist through speech. And of course, that can have a lot of metaphorical meanings, or you can just take it on its face value. I think either way, this film is effective.
Yeah, and I love Stephen McHattie, and he's so great in this movie as the boozy, too good for this podunk market DJ. He is a ton of fun. And it's a movie that has really very few locations. It's almost all inside this radio station. You get glimpses of the outdoors periodically, but mainly it's just theater of the mind. You're hearing reports come in about what's happening outside, which obviously allowed them to keep the budget pretty low, but it's really effectively done.
Yeah, and that can be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you remember, if you've seen it here at Fright Club, at about 35 minutes or so into the movie, the character of Ken reports on a group of infected taking 2 people from a van and biting them. And if you listen very closely, a lot of the sound they used was actually the sound from the chest bursting scene in Alien.
Wow.
Taken right from there. They used it, which I thought was pretty fascinating. And there's a very much talked about after credit scene that when we showed it here at Fright Club, we forgot about. And we were talking, and then it came on.
Yeah.
It's one that is interesting to comment how it relates to the film.
Right. It's super weird. Also, he has a Joey Ramone action figure in this movie, so extra points.
So Pontypool, a good start at number 5 in our countdown of Frightful Contagions from 2008. All right, moving up to number 4. Okay, this is the one we're going to see tonight, so we're not going to talk much about it. In a blackly satirical near future, a thriving industry sells celebrity illnesses to their obsessed fans. It's antiviral.
Do you not agree that the mania surrounding celebrity is reaching an unhealthy level?
No, I don't.
My clients want to feel more connected to those people that they see in the magazines and on television.
Enjoy.
So far, I've had all her diseases.
Must have been expensive.
Is there any way you could spread it?
Have you started bleeding yet?
Bleeding.
From your mouth.
You've become involved in something sinister. It's a weird business, Sid.
Now, since then, Brandon Cronenberg has gone to do Possessor, which is so good.
So great.
And then just last year, was it last year? Did Infinity Pool. But this was his debut, and with the last name of Cronenberg, I mean, he has a lot to live up to.
He really does.
And, you know, the body horror, of course, is there, but I think this was a pretty impressive, to have such big shoes to fill. I mean, this is a pretty impressive debut.
Yeah, you might expect him actually not to go so
Right.
full Cronenberg.
Right.
You know, to take a step away from body horror, and he he does
Rom-coms,
it.
maybe?
Oh, yeah. This movie, we're on Good Day Columbus on Friday mornings, talking about movies. We do movie reviews, and if it's a Fright Club Friday, then I'll throw in a little bit about Fright Club. I couldn't find any trailers from this movie that I thought unsuspecting masses could just watch at 9 a.m. over their coffee. I'm like, I'm going to get us fired. So we didn't show one today because it's a disturbing trailer. It's a great movie. Caleb Landry Jones, I love him in every single thing. I'll see him in anything he's in. He's so good in this movie. And then, although she doesn't have a really big part, Sarah Gadon plays the celebrity who they keep harvesting for things. And she's actually in a David Cronenberg film, the one about Freud, a Dangerous Method.
Dangerous Method.
Dangerous Method.
Yeah.
So it's not as if this was made like without David Cronenberg's blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that he's got to be proud of his kid, man.
Oh, you
Not
think
fall
so?
far from the tree.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into much about it. Just remember a couple things. All the close-up shots of needles entering skin, those are real. And all the scenes of blood drawing, that's all real, too. So
That seems wrong. Who signs up for that?
Oh, if it's not, Cronenberg is on the door, man.
Yeah, it's
I'll
true.
tell you what.
Yeah.
So please come down after and we'll talk about it. Definitely want to get your impressions because most people tonight have not seen it. So we will move on. 1 hour and 48 minutes later. Just in the way that celebrity culture has grown and changed since then, you can even read more into it. In fact, the thing that struck me this time was how it comments even then about how the celebrities play into it.
Yeah.
Because there's always stories when you hear about the celebrities today that hate the paparazzi. And then there's others that it seems like kind of strike a deal with them. You know, I'll let you know where I am. And so some of them, not all of them, but some of them definitely are part of it too. And the fact that the celebrities here are selling it and perpetuating it is another interesting little layer.
Yeah. And I always find it interesting because he's the son of a celebrity.
Yeah.
That I feel like that had to play into it, just sort of not only seeing, obviously, his dad, but, you know, the actors that his dad works
Sure.
with and what it must have been like for him to be around that all the time. I always wonder what that's like. And also, I just think, I love Caleb Landry Jones in everything. I love him in this movie. There's another horror film where he's kind of got that same anemic, sickly look, which is Byzantine, with Saoirse Ronan, which is a great like vampire movie.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, you know, he's in Get Out where he's like all buff and he's beating people up. And I always find it fascinating. You look at him in something like this, you think, oh, that guy's typecast. Like what else can he play? But he can do just about anything. The other one to see if you haven't seen is Nitram. He's magnificent in that movie and it's really hard to watch, but it's a great movie. But I love him. I'm a massive fan.
Agreed.
I detected, as the chef would say in Menu, I detected notes of DOA and Gattaca, and even a little Jurassic Park in. Just because technology says you can do it, doesn't mean you should.
Okay. I'm glad that you expanded on the Jurassic Park because I was confused by it a little bit.
And a Gattaca reference, seldom seen here in the States. But,
you know, one of the things
sometimes
that I notice when I watch a movie is that how often I really lean toward cannibalism without necessarily realizing that I do. I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, oh my God, this is also a cannibal film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why do I always like those? I don't know.
Maybe maybe we should explore that. I know those cell steaks.
I know, nasty.
It was already creepy, but then the cell steaks,
Yeah,
like,
it was gross.
and whatever they used to make them, the prop in the movie, like, it was just don't look appetizing at all.
Yeah, it was very gross.
How about the newbies here that we're going to see? Beau is Afraid. I'd love to get your thoughts if you want to come down and talk, because
They did say early on not to interview them. They told me
They
that
did?
specifically. They said,
I'm sorry.
I gave them pins and they said, don't interview us.
Okay, I was not around for that. I apologize. But the fact that you stayed through the whole thing, I'm taking as a plus. So thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to spread some love for the movie. It's quite contagious. It's my second time viewing, so I guess I'm an expert. And I got to say that I'm surprised to say I like it quite a bit more, because I think this came out back when I was in high school. And back then, it was a little bit like Cosmopolis a little bit. And I don't know, I didn't take too much to it. But this time, I really did like it quite a bit. And it was just awesome. I don't know, past the pandemic, just getting to see the swab getting right into the brain.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just hits different, you know?
It does.
That's a
It
very
really
good
does.
point. I mean, that's funny, but it's a very good point, because anything about a contagion is going to strike differently, and anyone, you're right, who had to test that way is going to feel
Yeah,
a
that's
little
a
bit,
nasty scene.
Yeah,
that's a nasty scene. But I think it's a good gag reference. Though I love the color palette in this film. There is so much white. It's so stark, and the whole time you're like, that's because it's going to get really bloody, right? Like we're going to see some blood. And one of the things, it's the black blood, right? Like it's not this sort of red spatter that you're waiting for. It's nasty, goopy black blood.
Plus, it's sort of a jump, I suppose, but seeing Malcolm McDowell in there just put me in kind of a lot of those all white. It's kind of a Kubrick mode.
Sure,
it just made me think of that. Make the jump to Clockwork Orange. Yeah.
Yeah, so first thing, I mean, shame on the both of you for having a movie that involves so many like close-ups of needles going into skin. It's just so no, it's probably the very few times that I've cringed in these films and felt sick to my stomach. But no, I think it's just so weird that, like, I know this movie's like original focus is about like celebrity culture, but it's just so weird that it feels like Cronenberg is being almost prescient here, because I think that the ideas that this movie is based on have only become worse as you've seen this celebrity culture issue and the closeness of them just expand out into, with all the media sharing content we have, like you two have a podcast. So, I mean, the parasocial relationships that you see with even the most minor of celebrities that we have now, like everybody feels close to and entitled to like everyone that they could possibly know. And that's probably the biggest one. So many other things that it feels weird that he's touching on that. Like there was a line about you're a commodity now that really got me, where it feels like it really reflects our modern culture now with the commodification of like YouTube or OnlyFans or even things like Grubhub and Uber that really hit so much harder now than I feel like they would have in 2012.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, that's very true, because early on the head doctor is talking about people that deserve to be famous, because you get the people now that complain about the Kardashians and what do people do to deserve to be famous. That's very prescient, I think. Also, it made me think about now, and with AI and things where you've heard about, I know there was a story when the Bruce Willis news broke, the story that he sold his likeness to be recreated for later for ad infinitum, as many films that could be made with his likeness and deepfakes and AI. Yeah, it just goes on and on and on.
And one of the things I love is that even when he's in the room with her, it's like she's inhuman to them. He wants to drink her blood and he wants to take her blood, but he doesn't want to shake her hand or even get in bed. That's what I kept thinking. Like, she's unconscious. Just, I think I would want to just sort of get in bed and get warm. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're both sick. We have the same contagion. I'm tired, clearly. I'm just going to lay down next to you. But that's not what anybody's impulse is. It's to treat it like, some inhuman like meat.
Because even though you want to be a part of them, it's still so cold and detached.
Because they're not real. They're not real people to you.
I don't know if Cronenberg, I'm not exactly sure on the timing on this, but I do remember around this time that this film was made, there was a lot of talk in the media about actually patenting DNA strains and making that intellectual property and all of the issues that involves. And I don't know if that's this movie kind of touches on that quite a bit, between, all these corporations kind of commodifying everything that they can.
It's a super creepy idea. And it makes me think of actually, because for the first time in a year, we watched a show. We watched Dead Ringers, which is very much about this, also very Cronenberg, of course, but it's very much about that idea of making a profit, commodifying, industrializing the human body and science of anatomy.
Yeah, and especially with everybody doing the DNA testing with 23andMe and all that. Who owns that data? Is that yours, or is that the companies that check your fine print and all that?
Check your fine print. Always good advice.
Yeah, I just want to know what the hell's wrong with the Cronenbergs. I want to know, where did this start? Did this start with the dad, or did it go further back? Every time I watch one of those movies, someone's like both. I watch both Possessor and it's fucking gross, man.
Possessor is a great movie.
Love Possessor.
That's a great movie.
Oh, and a gut punch of an ending. Yeah, love Possessor. Well, it's obviously something that brings up a lot of different moral ambiguities and different questions about modern society. Even in the last 10 or 11 years that it's come out, as we were talking about, gotten even more pronounced. So I think it can be revisited as a piece of social commentary and just awkward
I know, man.
bit of
the needle in the tooth, right? Oh my God, because you don't see what he does, and I'm like, I can't wait till he turns around, and then he turns around, and it's in my mouth. Love that. That's right. We promised.
We promised no eyeballs. You're welcome. Up to number 3. This is one that gets talked about a lot and very polarizing from 2017. Secure within a desolate home as an unnatural threat terrorizes the world, a man has established a tenuous domestic order with his wife and son. Then a desperate young family arrives seeking refuge. It comes at night.
I want to thank you again for letting us stay here. Just gonna run through a few things. When we go out during the day, we like to stick to groups just for safety. The red door. It's the only way in and out of the house. It stays closed and locked. Most important thing, we never go out at night. I think they're sick.
Put your mask on. Nobody's sick here.
Can't trust anyone but family. You don't get it.
How old are you, Travis?
If they're sick, then I am too.
I love this movie so much, but I understand how it really made some people upset. I think this one, more than any other, kickstarted the argument about A24 misleading people with their trailers. Because I get it. That makes you expect something in the movie that never comes. Now, I was definitely fine with that, but a lot of people were not, and I do understand it.
Yeah, a really good friend of ours, Brooklyn Ewing, who is a horror filmmaker, she hates this movie. She loathes this movie, and she was like, it should be called Nothing Comes at Night.
But something does. It's just not what you're expecting.
It's just not what you're expecting. And it is an emotional gut punch. This movie destroyed me.
Yeah.
And the performances are amazing,
they're so great.
Top to bottom. So Kelvin Harrison Jr., this is the first film I'd ever seen him in. He's absolutely amazing in this movie. Joel Edgerton, as always, is super great. Christopher Abbott is great. Riley Keough, the little boy. It's just a beautiful, gut-wrenching movie. And I wanted there to be one that was really aftermath, right? That wasn't, that's really, they're the survivors and they're trying to continue to survive. So as opposed to being, like so many of the movies, it's like, oh my God, look what's just started. I wanted one that to be, the contagion is out there and how terrifying it is, horrifying it is to be one of the survivors, to be, it's this I find this film very claustrophobic and sad.
And the way it's filmed, this is the second film for Trey Edward Schultz. He did Krisha, very, very good, low-budget film, not horror. And then since then, he's done Waves, another very good movie. So he's very talented. And the way he tells this story, the way he films it. I mean, some of it, like early on, it changes. During the climax, the aspect ratio changes. Also, he films in CinemaScope sometimes, transitioning out when Travis is not dreaming. And a lot of this has to do with Travis, the Kelvin Harrison Jr. character, when he's dreaming and when he's not. That goes a lot with how you can interpret the things that are happening, and that red door that you saw in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It's very psychological. I love it, but if you're looking for a creature that comes at night, you will not find it.
But you always have antiviral, which is the opposite of this movie.
That's right, but it comes at night. Definitely, I get what you're saying. That's a good aspect to include, the aftermath.
Yes.
And the paranoia
Yeah.
that sets in with this family. Who's infected, who's not? Are you sick? Are you going to infect me? And then what this man, specifically Joel Edgerton, is willing to do to protect his family.
And you know what? If you do like this movie, there's a really great film called The Survivalist. I know you like Mia Goth. I mean, you're here. And she's in The Survivalist, and it's not a horror film. It's more of an adventure film. It's really, really good, and it reminded me a lot of this film.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And that is number 3 from 2017. It Comes at Night. And up to number 2 from 2014. This is another one we've talked about quite often with good reason. A young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after a sexual encounter. It Follows.
This thing, it's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
Wherever you are, it's somewhere walking straight for you. All you can do is pass it along to someone else.
When I watched this movie the first time, I was just slain by it. It was such an original idea. It was such a good idea. It was so well executed. The performances were so good. And the way it was shot felt like more of sort of a coming-of-age indie drama. And the characters had that kind of rapport. But also it felt like the best of John Carpenter, especially the opening sequence.
All day. Yeah.
The opening sequence was so Halloween. It was so beautiful. And I loved the idea of it. I love the contagion part of it. I loved the way you have to sort of think ahead and stay one step ahead of. But more than anything, I loved how the nightmare changed what it looked like every time you saw it. It was fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
There was that giant man, and then there was the woman who had peed herself, and then there was the naked man on top of the roof. It's just no matter where you looked. But the other thing that was brilliant about this, the way it was directed, is that
David Robert Mitchell is the director, yeah.
We knew what was going on before Maika Monroe, the lead character, knew. And so the camera was us. It was constantly sweeping the periphery. She wasn't doing that yet, but we were, and the camera was, and it was brilliant because it would go around in circles, and then when it came back, you're like, is that guy closer? Like, then you'd be like waiting, please, turn that way, oh, he is closer. It was so incredibly well directed.
Yeah, that was great. It was also great how he purposefully didn't put a timestamp on the movie. If
Right.
you looked at the technology they were using, like, what is that? Kind of a shell phone thing.
Right.
And what TV are they watching? Very, very on purpose. It was not narrowing down a time frame, which was cool. Also, it got your attention right away from that
Oh, my
opening
God.
scene. The woman all, broken up on the beach. That was just, jeez. That was your jump scare a little bit at the beginning before it settled into the Halloween type opening.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very effectively told. And just the creeping dread once you knew that this creature, this force, no matter what form it took, was slow, but it wasn't dumb, and it never would stop.
Right.
It never would stop. It's such a creepy way to tell it, but genius. Apparently it came from a dream that he had.
Wow.
And it wasn't so much, a lot of people took it as a comment on STDs and things like that, but I think it was much more than that.
It was, although it definitely is at the STD of horror films. I mean, it absolutely is. But it is. I think it's a lot smarter than that, and I think it kind of nails a time period, not in a life. It nails sort of that lingering moment between like adolescence and adulthood, and it's just a beautifully made movie and super scary.
And just to clear things up afterwards, because a lot of people had theories, he came out and said, David Robert Mitchell, the filmmaker, said that neither a condom nor same gender sex would stop the monster. So
Sure.
just to put that out there. Because a lot of people, in a movie like this, a lot of people right away, well, this is how you beat it. This is how you, well, maybe not so much.
Right.
Maybe not so much, but.
Also, it's make-believe.
Is it? That is It Follows, number 2 on our list of frightful contagions from 2014. We got a few minutes left, so let's do this. Number 1 from 2002. Boy, this is an all-timer. We've talked about this many times. 4 weeks, do the math, after a mysterious incurable virus spreads throughout the UK, a handful of survivors try to find sanctuary 28 days later.
So who are you?
I wake up today in hospital. I wake up and I'm hallucinating. I've got some bad news. They're infected.
Infected!
Father.
Infected with what?
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
The blood. There's something in the blood. You have to leave now. What will be coming? They always do.
You know, the zombie type genre, the zombie type movies have been around for so many years. There have been so many of them that you kind of just, the same old, same old. And then once in a while, a movie like this comes around and makes you think, man, yes, you can do it. You can find something else new and you can tell it in such an effective way. And this was, boy, it felt like a classic almost from day one.
Yeah, it was really scary. And of course, I don't have to tell any of you they're not really zombies.
Right.
We are all aware that they're not dead and reanimated.
Right.
They're fully alive. And that's how it made the list. And it is a genius notion. And the thing is, now, the first time I saw it, and he's out there, hello, I thought nothing of it. First time I saw the trailer. And then every time after seeing this movie the first time, I just want to go, shh, the priest will hear you. Be quiet. There are so many moments in this movie that are just full-blown terrifying. And it's so well constructed, and it's sad.
It is.
And I have threatened many times to do the saddest horror movie deaths. That's going to be a podcast at some point. And I can tell you right now that Frank, when Brendan Gleeson gets that drop of blood from the crow in his eye, oh my God, I just was gutted. I was like, not Frank! Oh my God, not Frank! It was so sad.
It was so sad. And the way, of course, he's such a great actor. You know, you saw it on his face. He knew right away.
He knew.
There's so many great sequences, set pieces, and then at the end, of course, you've got the metaphor of the enemy is us. You know, the real horror, the real danger is us, which is the case in a lot of these movies. But still, you can find a new way to tell it.
Right. That's when they did that, I thought to myself, Danny Boyle is now at this point paying homage to Romero because that was always Romero's point in all of his movies, especially his zombie movies. And so I thought it was a nice touch at the time. But then once that happens, I mean, even that, Danny Boyle took to such terrifying heights about how bad they would be. And then thank God, Naomi Harris, Selena, what a badass she was. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Selena.
Want her on my team.
Exactly.
For sure. And, we're running out of time. So that is number 1 with good reason. Boy, still just so effective. 28 days later on our list of frightful contagions. So,
and that rumor has it, Cillian Murphy is up for a sequel. He's willing to do a sequel to this. So fingers crossed.
We're up for it.
Yeah.
We're up for that.
We are.
Yeah, so that's number 1. So as always, if we missed anything or something we thought, something you think maybe was out of whack, out of order, Seth, I'm looking at you. You got to let us know. As always, we always love to keep the conversation going. You can find us easily on Twitter. We're at Fright Club Pod. Of course, our Facebook group, just for the Fright Clubbers here, is Fright Club Podcast on Facebook. Love to have you if you're not in there already. And Mad Wolf Columbus on Facebook and Instagram. The main website is madwolf.com. And we'll have this all edited and in all the socials here by Monday or Tuesday, I think, depending on how ambitious I am over the weekend. And so by all means, come down, enjoy the movie, come down. We want to talk about it afterwards and get you on the podcast. What else is happening? What else did I forget?
Well, our in-studio podcast, the next one that we do is going to be with director Jeremiah Kipp of Slapface. He's going to join us, and we're going to talk about brothers in horror movies.
How did we get him on the show? No, I was kidding. We've been trying to work him in for a while.
We have.
So thanks to him for being patient. And we're going to
That's right. Our
be
next
back
Fright
here.
Club Live. We're going to show the film Swallow, which is not nearly as horrifying as tonight's show. So it's a nice balance, I think. Although it's a great, great movie, and we're going to talk about super creepy housewives.
Yeah, and if you may remember, Swallow actually debuted here in Columbus at Nightmares Film Festival. So you may have seen it there, or may have seen it since then. But yeah, it's not a classic horror.
It's very
movie.
Hitchcocky.
It is very Hitchcocky, yeah, but still, I think it qualifies for
Yep.
sure. Housewives and horror, so that'll be good. That'll be the next Fright Club Live, June 9th. So a lot going on. Keep in touch. Come down. We'll talk afterwards. And until next time, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.